What this humble clock shop owner discovered inside the pendulum of a 19th century grandfather clock would expose the Swiss banking industry's darkest secret and turn her into the most hunted woman in the financial world. Before we jump back tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The quiet streets of Millfield were drenched in autumn rain as Olivia Bennett hurried toward her classroom, dodging puddles that reflected the gray Massachusetts sky. For 12 years, she had taught history at Millfield High School with a passion that never quite translated into financial stability. At 35, her life had become a careful dance of budget spreadsheets, payment extensions, and the quiet shame of shopping from the clearance racks, while her colleagues discussed summer homes and European vacations. The faculty lounge buzzed with Monday morning conversations about weekend adventures and upcoming plans. Olivia quietly stirred creamer into her coffee, calculating whether the remaining $43 in her checking account would stretch until Friday's paycheck. Her student loan payments, still $1,240 monthly, despite a decade of faithful service, had arrived with their usual red past due stamp, a constant reminder of the master's degree that had secured her teaching position, but failed to provide the financial security she'd expected. "Earth to Olivia," said Mark Reynolds, the physics teacher whose classroom adjoined hers. "Planning another museum trip for the kids?" His genuine smile softened the interruption of her financial calculations. "Just budgeting," she replied, forcing brightness into her voice. "The water heater decided to quit last night. Cold showers really wake you up, though." She laughed, masking the anxiety of the unexpected $850 repair bill that would max out her last remaining credit card. The truth was far more complicated than a broken appliance. Olivia's mother's ongoing battle with Parkinson's had deteriorated, requiring specialized care that Medicare only partially covered. The $3,670 monthly care facility costs had gradually consumed Olivia's modest savings, then her emergency fund, and finally pushed her toward the financial precipice she now faced. Each month became a complex equation of which bills could wait, which medications were absolutely essential, and what basic comforts she could sacrifice to maintain her mother's dignity and care. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. As Olivia guided her sophomore world history class through discussions of the Renaissance banking systems, the irony wasn't lost on her. The afternoon classes passed in a blur, Olivia's teaching on autopilot while her mind calculated impossible financial equations. Even if she sold her car and took the bus, even if she moved from her modest one-bedroom apartment to a room in someone's house, even if she picked up night shifts at the 24-hour diner where she'd worked through college, the numbers simply wouldn't add up. As the final bell rang, Principal Harriman appeared at her classroom door. "Olivia, do you have a moment?" His expression was unreadable as he closed the door behind the departing students. Olivia braced herself, wondering if budget cuts had finally reached her position. Another teacher with less seniority, but a spouse's income to fall back on. "There's a gentleman here to see you. Says it's urgent family matter." Principal Harriman's voice dropped. "Looks pretty official. I've put him in the conference room." The man who rose from the conference table was tall and thin, with wire-rimmed glasses and the careful manner of someone accustomed to delivering sensitive information. "Ms. Bennett? I'm Thomas Whitaker from Blackwood, Harrington and Associates. I handle estate matters." He extended a business card embossed with an elegant logo. "Estate matters?" Olivia echoed, confused. Her mother's modest possessions were already in storage, and there was no one else in her family with anything resembling an estate. "I regret to inform you that your uncle Frederick Winters passed away last Tuesday in Geneva." Mr. Whitaker opened a leather portfolio and withdrew several documents. According to his will, You are his sole beneficiary. Olivia stared blankly. There must be some mistake. I don't have an Uncle Frederick. Your mother is Eleanor Bennett, born Eleanor Winters, correct? When Olivia nodded, Whitaker continued. Frederick was her older brother. They were estranged for quite some time. Since before your birth, I understand. The revelation stunned Olivia. Her mother had never once mentioned having a brother. Through all the family stories, holiday gatherings, and even in the early days of her illness when memories flowed freely, there had never been any reference to Frederick Winters. Mr. Winters owned a specialty clock shop in Geneva, Switzerland. Tempus Precision, along with the building that housed it. He also maintained a small apartment above the shop. Whitaker slid a folder toward her. The property and business had been left to you, along with all contents and associated accounts. Olivia leafed through the documents, struggling to process this unexpected connection to a man she'd never known. Photos showed a narrow 3-story building with large display windows featuring ornate timepieces. The shop itself looked like something from another century. Warm wood paneling, glass display cases, and workbenches equipped with specialized tools. Why would he leave everything to me if we've never met? Olivia asked, finding her voice. Mr. Winters was a complicated man, very private. Whitaker adjusted his glasses. He left explicit instructions that everything was to go to his niece, Olivia Bennett of Millfield, Massachusetts. He also left this for you. Whitaker handed her a sealed envelope, her name written in flowing script across the front. Inside was a single page of heavy stationery, the handwriting precise and elegant. Olivia, you don't know me, but I have followed your life from a distance. Your mother and I parted ways long ago over differences that seem meaningless now in the face of mortality. I regret never knowing you, but circumstances made that impossible. What I leave to you is more than a shop. It is a legacy and a responsibility. The true value of my life's work is hidden where time stands still, protected by the constant motion that measures our days. Trust no one until you understand what you've inherited. The key opens more than just the front door. Frederick Winters. Enclosed with the letter was an ornate brass key with an unusual tooth pattern and a Swiss bank card in a plain envelope. I've arranged for your travel to Geneva, Whitaker continued. Mr. Winters was very specific about your need to take personal possession of the property and inspect it thoroughly before any decisions are made regarding its future. I can't just leave, Olivia protested. I have classes, responsibilities. My mother's care. Mr. Winters anticipated your concerns. Whitaker slid another document forward. This bank draft for $50,000 is an advance from the estate to cover any immediate expenses or arrangements needed to facilitate your travel. Olivia stared at the check, the amount representing more money than she made in a year of teaching. The sudden appearance of this sum enough to clear her mother's care facility, debt and provide breathing room for months felt like a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman. How long would I need to be in Geneva? She asked, her mind racing through possibilities. Mr. Winters suggested a minimum of 2 weeks to properly assess the business and property. Whitaker checked his notes. The Swiss authorities require an in-person appearance to transfer certain aspects of the estate, and there are business matters that need immediate attention. That evening, Olivia sat at her kitchen table surrounded by the estate documents, trying to piece together this unexpected branch of her family tree. Her mother, now lost in the fog of advanced Parkinson's, could provide no answers about the brother she'd never mentioned. Old family photo albums revealed nothing, no pictures of a brother, no references in the margin notes, not even a gap where photos might have been removed. The mystery deepened when Olivia searched online for information about Frederick Winters and Tempus Precision. The shop had a simple website showcasing exquisite timepieces with prices that made her gasp, handcrafted watches and restored antique clocks selling for tens of thousands of dollars. Reviews described Frederick as a master craftsman and The Mozart of horology, with clients apparently including European aristocracy, Middle Eastern royalty, and Silicon Valley billionaires. Yet beyond the business, Frederick Winters barely existed in the digital world. No social media presence, no interviews and horological publications, not even a photograph on his own company website. For someone who created timepieces for the global elite, he had maintained extraordinary privacy. 2 days later, having secured a leave of absence from school and arranged for her mother's care, Olivia found herself on a flight to Geneva with the mysterious brass key and bank card tucked safely in her carry-on bag. The sudden turn of events felt surreal. Just days ago, she'd been calculating whether she could afford to repair her leaking shower. Now she was flying business class to Switzerland to claim an inheritance from an uncle she'd never known existed. Geneva greeted her with breathtaking beauty, the pristine lake reflecting snow-capped Alps, elegant buildings lining immaculate streets, and an atmosphere of refined prosperity. The taxi driver navigated narrow cobblestone streets into the old town, finally stopping before a narrow building wedged between a luxury watch retailer and a boutique chocolate shop. "Tempus Precision," he announced, gesturing toward the unassuming facade with its elegant gold lettering on dark wood. "Very famous place. Very expensive watches." The shop windows displayed fewer pieces than neighboring establishments, but with museum-like presentation, each timepiece isolated in perfect lighting with minimal descriptive text, unlike the glittering displays nearby that showcased dozens of watches. Frederick had chosen to present just 5 masterpieces, each commanding its own space like priceless art. Olivia inserted the brass key into the front door, feeling a strange connection to the uncle she'd never met as the tumbler. Mechanisms engaged with a satisfying click. Inside, the shop smelled of polished wood, fine oil, and the indefinable scent of age and craftsmanship. Dust motes danced in the streams of afternoon light filtering through the windows. A soft electronic chime announced her entry, though the shop was clearly closed, a small sign in the window indicating it would reopen under new management. The interior was smaller than it had appeared in photos, perhaps 20 feet wide and 30 feet deep, with glass display cases lining the walls and a central counter for serving customers. Behind the counter, a doorway led to what appeared to be a workshop where tools were arranged with surgical precision on benches beneath strong task lighting. As Olivia explored the shop, she began to appreciate the extraordinary quality of her uncle's work. Each timepiece was a masterpiece of precision and artistry. Pocket watches with hand-painted enamel scenes under crystal. Wristwatches with complications that tracked lunar phases, star positions, and leap years. Table clocks with exposed movements that revealed breathtaking mechanical complexity. A leather-bound ledger on the counter contained handwritten records of sales and repairs dating back 15 years, each entry meticulously documented with client names, or sometimes just discrete initials, services provided, and amounts paid. The figures confirmed what the website had suggested. Frederick Winters had catered to the extraordinarily wealthy, with even basic repairs commanding prices that exceeded Olivia's monthly salary. The apartment above the shop proved to be as methodically organized as the business below. 2 modest but well-appointed floors contained a small kitchen, living area, bedroom, and bath, along with a second workshop that appeared dedicated to research and development rather than client work. Unlike the warm, traditional atmosphere of the shop, the apartment featured surprisingly modern furnishings and technology, high-end computers, advanced microscopy equipment, and what appeared to be custom-designed testing apparatus. Every surface was immaculate, every possession precisely arranged, giving the impression that Frederick Winters had lived his life with the same precision he brought to his timepieces. The only personal touches were a collection of art books featuring Renaissance masters and a small shelf of framed photographs. Olivia felt a jolt when she recognized her own graduation portrait among them. Frederick had somehow obtained a copy. of her high school graduation photo, her college ceremony, and even a newspaper clipping when she'd won a teaching award 3 years earlier. The discovery was unsettling. Her unknown uncle had been following her life from a distance, collecting these moments while remaining completely absent. Why had he never reached out? What differences with her mother had been so significant that they warranted complete estrangement, yet so meaningless that he regretted them at the end? As evening approached, Olivia decided to check the business accounts mentioned in the estate documents. The Swiss bank card from Frederick required a PIN, which Whitaker had provided in a sealed envelope with instructions to memorize and destroy. She located the nearest branch of Swiss National Bank and approached the ATM outside, inserting the card and entering the PIN to check the balance. The screen flickered, then displayed a message in multiple languages. Card recognized. For security purposes, please proceed inside to any available banker. Inside, a professionally dressed woman examined the card and Olivia's identification, then led her to a private consultation room. This is a special account type, Ms. Bennett. I'll need to verify a few security protocols before proceeding. After confirming details from the estate documents and Frederick's letter, the banker accessed a secure terminal. Mr. Winters maintains several accounts with our institution. The business operating account for Tempest Precision currently holds 347,426 Swiss francs, approximately $370,000, Olivia quickly calculated, which should transfer to your control once the estate documentation is processed. The figures stunned Olivia. The operating account alone contained more money than she would earn in 5 years of teaching. There are also 2 secured investment accounts and a safety deposit box, the banker continued. However, those require additional authentication that Mr. Winters established. Our records indicate that instructions for accessing these assets should be available to you at the property. Returning to the shop as night fell, Olivia felt overwhelmed by the responsibility that had suddenly landed in her lap. A business she knew nothing about, property in a country where she didn't speak the language, and mysterious references to the true value being hidden where time stands still. In the quiet of Frederick's apartment, Olivia reread his letter, focusing on the cryptic instructions. The true value of my life's work is hidden where time stands still, protected by the constant motion that measures our days, where time stands still, yet protected by constant motion. The contradiction nagged at her. As a clockmaker, Frederick's entire business had been dedicated to measuring time's constant movement. What in a clock shop would represent time standing still? The next morning brought the first official business of the inheritance, a meeting with Frederick's attorney, Monsieur Laurent, who maintained an office near the financial district. Impeccably dressed and speaking precise, accented English, Laurent reviewed the complex inheritance procedures required by Swiss law. Your uncle was most specific that you must personally evaluate the business before any decisions regarding its disposition, Laurent explained. He arranged for a temporary operating license so you may continue limited business operations during this evaluation period. I know nothing about horology or running a specialty shop, Olivia admitted. I'm a history teacher. Laurent smiled slightly. Mr. Winters mentioned your profession. He said your background in history would provide valuable context. He slid a business card across the desk. This is Henry Dubois, Mr. Winters' assistant for the past 7 years. He has agreed to help with the transition and can explain the day-to-day operations. As Laurent outlined the estate particulars, Olivia was struck by how thoroughly Frederick had prepared for this transfer, ensuring every legal detail was addressed, every transition path smoothed. Yet the most basic questions remained unanswered. Why had he cut himself off from family? Why had he chosen her specifically as his heir? And what exactly was the true value he had cryptically referenced? There is one unusual aspect to the inheritance, Laurent said, interrupting her thoughts. Mr. Winters included a specific condition. You must maintain possession of the business for a minimum of 30 days and complete a full inventory before any sale can be considered. He wanted me to understand what I was selling, Olivia reasoned. Perhaps Lauren's expression revealed nothing. Or perhaps he wanted to ensure you discovered something specific before decisions were made. That afternoon, she met Henry Dubois at the shop, a soft-spoken man in his 50s with nimble hands and watchmaker's magnifying glasses pushed up on his forehead. He greeted her with respectful formality, clearly uncertain about this American teacher who had suddenly inherited his workplace. Mr. Winters was a private man but a brilliant horologist, Henry explained as he demonstrated the security systems and shop procedures. Many of our clients are collectors who value discretion as much as craftsmanship. As Henry walked her through the workshop, explaining specialized tools and ongoing projects, Olivia was struck by the contrast between the public-facing showroom and the workspaces behind it. The shop presented traditional luxury and heritage, while the workshops contained cutting-edge technology alongside centuries-old techniques. What exactly made my uncle's work so valuable? Olivia asked. Beyond the obvious craftsmanship, I mean. Henry considered the question carefully. Mr. Winters had a rare combination of traditional skills and innovative thinking. He could restore 300-year-old mechanisms using authentic methods, but he also developed new complications that hadn't existed before. He hesitated, then added, some of his clients valued certain, unique capabilities he could incorporate. What kind of capabilities? I am not privy to all aspects of Mr. Winters' special commissions, Henry replied with practiced neutrality. He handled certain projects personally, particularly for his most exclusive clients. The careful evasion raised more questions, but Henry's closed expression suggested he would provide no further details. Instead, he showed her the appointment book for the coming weeks, a surprisingly full calendar of clients expecting repairs, consultations, and custom work. These clients have waited months, sometimes years, for Mr. Winters' attention, Henry explained. Many will be disappointed to learn of his passing. Can you handle the appointments? Olivia asked, realizing the business represented livelihoods beyond just her inheritance. Some, yes. Others were specifically requesting Mr. Winters' expertise. Henry's expression softened slightly. If you're planning to sell, it would be kind to provide some closure for these clients, rather than simply disappearing. That evening, alone in the apartment, Olivia began a methodical exploration of her uncle's possessions, hoping to find clues to the mystery he had left behind. Frederick's personal files were meticulously organized receipts, correspondence, technical drawings, all precisely labeled and filed. Yet nothing explained his estrangement from her mother or the cryptic reference to hidden value. In his primary workshop downstairs, she examined the larger timepieces, grandfather clocks, wall regulators, and ornate table clocks in various stages of restoration. Each was a masterpiece, worth tens of thousands based on the insurance documentation she found, but none seemed to contain hidden compartments or secret features beyond their intended complications. As midnight approached, Olivia found herself drawn to the centerpiece of the main showroom, an ornate grandfather clock that stood nearly 8 feet tall, its case crafted from rich mahogany with inlaid marquetry depicting the constellations. According to the small descriptive card beside it, this was the Astronomer, created circa 1788 for a French nobleman and recently restored by Frederick Winters. Unlike the other pieces for sale, this one bore a small, not-for-sale collection of the proprietor notation. The clock's face was a masterpiece of complexity, tracking not just hours and minutes, but moon phases, planetary positions, and seasons. The pendulum, visible through a glass panel in the case, was unusually elaborate, a gleaming brass disc engraved with intricate patterns that caught the light as it swung in its eternal arc. Staring at the hypnotic swing of the pendulum, Olivia suddenly realized what Frederick's letter might have meant. where time stands still, protected by constant motion that measures our days. At the exact center of the pendulum's swing, moment of perfect balance before gravity pulled it back, time seemed to stand still. That precise point, just for a microsecond, represented perfect equilibrium. Yet it was protected by the constant motion of the pendulum itself, the very mechanism that measured time's passage. Heart racing, Olivia opened the clock's case and studied the pendulum more carefully. The brass disc appeared seamless, but when she held her phone's flashlight at an angle, she detected the faintest circular line near its edge, suggesting it might contain a separate component. With trembling fingers, Olivia carefully removed the heavy pendulum from its mounting, surprised by its substantial weight. Examining it under the shop's precision lighting, she discovered a nearly invisible seam around the perimeter. When pressed in a specific sequence, the outer rim released with a soft click, revealing a hollow interior that contained a small leather pouch. Heart pounding, Olivia emptied the pouch's contents onto Frederick's workbench, a micro SD card, a folded piece of paper with a sequence of numbers, and a tiny key unlike anything she had ever seen, with digital-looking teeth that suggested advanced technology rather than traditional locksmithing. The paper contained a handwritten message in the same elegant script as Frederick's letter: "The truth lies in plain sight, hidden by time." 47, 3721, 8, 5417E. The box requires both keys. Olivia quickly recognized the format of geographic coordinates. A quick search on her phone revealed a location approximately 10 kilometers outside Zurich, Switzerland's financial capital. The implication was clear. Frederick had hidden something of significant value, accessible only with both the physical key and whatever digital credentials the micro SD card contained. Sleep eluded her that night as questions multiplied. What exactly had her uncle hidden? Why the elaborate security measures? And most puzzling, why entrust these secrets to a niece he'd never met? Morning brought Henry back to the shop, his reserved demeanor softening slightly as Olivia shared her intention to honor the pending client appointments. "Perhaps you could handle the technical work while I manage the client interactions," she suggested. "I may not understand horology, but I do know how to listen and communicate." Henry agreed with visible relief. "That would be most appropriate. Our first appointment is at 10 Mr. Kazan, a Russian businessman who commissioned a custom chronograph." The appointment proved enlightening. Mr. Kazan arrived precisely on time, impeccably dressed in a suit that probably cost more than Olivia's car. After expressing condolences for Frederick's passing, he immediately asked about the status of his commission. "Mr. Winters completed the mechanical assembly before his passing," Henry explained, showing Kazan the partially finished watch. "The movement is complete. Only the final casing and testing remain." Kazan examined the watch through a loop, his expression unreadable. "The special feature we discussed, it is implemented." Henry glanced briefly at Olivia before responding. "Mr. Winters handled that aspect personally, but his notes indicate it was completed to specification." The Russian nodded, satisfied. "Excellent. When can I expect delivery?" 2 weeks, Henry promised. "I will complete the assembly according to Mr. Winters' instructions." After Kazan departed, Olivia pressed for details. What special feature was he referring to? Henry's expression closed. Mr. Winters developed certain enhancements for select clients. "I am not privy to all details. You work here. You must have some idea." The assistant sighed. "Some clients request features beyond timekeeping, secure data storage, encryption capabilities, communication, functions that operate outside normal channels. Mr. Winters had a particular expertise in miniaturization and security." The revelation shifted Olivia's understanding of her uncle's business. Frederick wasn't just creating luxury timepieces, he was developing sophisticated technological tools, disguised as watches, presumably for clients who valued extreme privacy or operated in sensitive environments. Throughout the day, more clients arrived: a Japanese technology executive, a Saudi prince's representative, a discreet woman who provided only the initial M and spoke with a refined British accent. Each expressed genuine sadness at Frederick's passing before inquiring about their commissions, and each referenced special features or proprietary functions that Henry acknowledged but wouldn't elaborate upon. Between appointments, Olivia explored the shop's financial records more thoroughly, discovering that while the business appeared modestly profitable from standard repairs and sales, the custom commissions with enhanced features commanded extraordinary fees, often hundreds of thousands of dollars for a single timepiece. That evening, after Henry departed, Olivia returned to examining the items from the Pendulum. The micro SD card required specialized equipment to read. Fortunately, Frederick's research workshop contained advanced computer systems with appropriate card readers. When inserted, the card prompted for a password. After several unsuccessful attempts using variations of Frederick's name and birthdate, Olivia tried the sequence of numbers from the paper. The screen immediately displayed a directory containing hundreds of files with alphanumeric names. Opening one at random revealed what appeared to be banking information account numbers, access codes, transaction histories, and client details from dozens of Swiss banks. Another file contained what looked like encryption keys alongside names and dates. A third held detailed schematics for watch mechanisms with embedded microelectronics. The scope and sensitivity of the information was staggering. Frederick had apparently compiled extensive documentation on Swiss banking operations, client information that should have been protected by legendary Swiss privacy laws, and technical specifications for devices that appeared to bypass normal security protocols. This wasn't just valuable information, it was potentially dangerous. The kind of data that powerful people would kill to protect or acquire. A soft noise from downstairs interrupted her exploration. Olivia froze, listening intently. The shop's security system should have announced any entry, yet she distinctly heard movement on the main floor. Heart pounding, she quickly ejected the micro SD card and slipped it into her pocket. The tiny specialized key she tucked into her sock. Moving silently to Frederick's bedroom, she retrieved the baseball bat he kept beside the bed. Apparently some American habits persisted even in Switzerland. Descending the stairs with deliberate care to avoid creaking steps, Olivia saw light spilling from the main workshop, where someone was systematically searching through drawers and cabinets. The intruder moved with purpose, clearly familiar with the shop's layout. From her position on the stairs, Olivia could see it was a man in dark clothing, wearing gloves and moving with the efficiency of professional training rather than desperate opportunism. This was no random burglary, he was searching for something specific. The realization that she was witnessing a targeted search rather than opportunistic theft made her freeze momentarily. What had Frederick gotten involved with that would warrant a professional break-in barely a week after his death? The intruder suddenly tensed, sensing her presence. He turned smoothly, revealing a lean face with cold eyes and a small scar along his jawline. For a frozen moment, they stared at each other, Olivia on the stairs with her baseball bat, the stranger among Frederick's precisely organized tools. "Miss Bennett," he said in accented English, his tone conversational despite the circumstances. "I wondered when we would meet." The casual familiarity sent a chill through Olivia. "You have me at a disadvantage." "In more ways than you realize." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Your uncle possessed something that doesn't belong to him. I'm here to retrieve it." "Everything here is legally mine now," Olivia replied, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. "If you have a claim, speak to the estate attorney." The man laughed softly. "This matter won't be resolved through legal channels, Ms. Bennett. Frederick stole information that threatens the privacy of very powerful people. Those people want it back." "I don't know what you're talking about." I think you do. His gaze was unnervingly direct. The pendulum and the grandfather clock quite clever of Frederick. Did you find the contents interesting? Olivia's blood ran cold. How could he know about the pendulum so quickly? She'd only discovered it herself hours earlier. You've been watching me, she realized aloud. From the moment you arrived in Geneva, he gestured toward the windows. This shop has been under surveillance since Frederick's death. We knew he would have left instructions, contingencies. He was always meticulous. Who are you working for? Let's call them concerned financial institutions. He took a step forward. The information Frederick compiled could destabilize the entire Swiss banking system. Account details, client identities, transaction histories protected by secrecy. Laws worth billions to the right buyers and catastrophic if publicly released. The pieces began falling into place. Frederick hadn't just been making watches, he'd been collecting banking secrets, presumably through devices he created for wealthy clients. The special features weren't just communication tools, but sophisticated espionage devices that recorded and transmitted confidential information. What did my uncle want with banking information? Olivia asked, playing for time while inching back up the stairs. The intruder shrugged. Initially, leverage perhaps. Frederick provided services to very private clients, diplomats, oligarchs. Royalty, people with secrets and the wealth to protect them. At some point, he began collecting those secrets. And now these people think I have this information. We know you have it, Ms. Bennett. His smile was cold. The question is whether you'll be reasonable about returning it. The implicit threat hung in the air between them. Olivia tightened her grip on the baseball bat, knowing it would provide little protection against this professional. I triggered a silent alarm when I heard you break in, she lied. Police will be here any minute. The man cocked his head, listening for sirens. A convenient bluff, but we both know it's untrue. Frederick disabled all automatic police notifications because his clients valued absolute privacy during their visits. He was right. Henry had explained that the security system was designed to alert only Frederick and himself, not law enforcement. A sudden pounding on the shop's front door made them both start. Through the glass, Olivia could see two uniformed police officers, their flashlights illuminating the darkened showroom. The intruder's expression hardened. This isn't finished. Think carefully about your next steps, Ms. Bennett. The people I represent can make you very comfortable or very uncomfortable. He slipped through the workshop's rear exit, disappearing into the alley behind the shop. The police, it turned out, were responding to a call from a neighboring business owner who had noticed unusual activity. Their cursory investigation revealed no evidence of forced entry, nothing obviously missing. Olivia didn't mention the intruder, instinctively feeling that involving authorities might create more danger than protection. After the police departed, Olivia spent a sleepless night contemplating her situation. The micro-SD card in her possession apparently contained explosive information about Swiss banking clients, the kind of secrets that could ruin reputations, collapse fortunes, and possibly even topple governments. Morning brought a call from Henry, who sounded uncharacteristically anxious. Miss Bennett, I won't be able to come in today. A family emergency has arisen. The carefully neutral phrasing raised immediate suspicions. Is everything all right? Henry? A pause. Let's just say I received a suggestion that my expertise might not be required for a few days. A rather forceful suggestion. Someone threatened you, Olivia translated. Please be careful, Ms. Bennett. Mr. Winter's business ventures extended beyond horology. If certain parties believe you have access to sensitive information, he left the warning unfinished. After ending the call, Olivia weighed her options. She could return to Massachusetts immediately, abandoning the inheritance and whatever complications came with it. She could turn the micro-SD card over to the authorities, though she had no way of knowing which officials might be compromised by the powerful interests involved. Or she could try to understand what Frederick had been working toward before deciding her next steps. The coordinates on the note seemed the most concrete lead. Whatever Frederick had hidden near Zurich might provide context for the information on the micro SD card and clarity about his intentions. Renting a car to avoid being tracked through public transportation, Olivia drove north toward Zurich, following GPS guidance to a location that proved to be a small private cemetery overlooking Lake Zurich. The peaceful setting, with its ancient trees and well-maintained grounds, seemed an unlikely hiding place for banking secrets. Following a path through precisely arranged headstones, Olivia located a modest granite marker with Frederick's name, the dates of his birth and death, and a simple inscription: "Time reveals all truths." Beneath these words was a small brass plate secured with 4 screws, unusual for a headstone. When examined closely, the plate had a tiny keyhole barely visible to the naked eye. Glancing around to ensure she was alone, Olivia retrieved the specialized key from her sock. It fit perfectly into the keyhole. With a soft click, the brass plate released, revealing a recessed compartment containing a small metallic box with an electronic lock, featuring both a physical keyhole and a digital interface. "The box requires both keys," Frederick's note had said. The physical key she'd found in the Pendulum, and presumably digital credentials from the micro SD card. Connecting her phone to the box's interface required an adapter from her rental car's multimedia system. Once linked, she accessed the micro SD card's contents, searching for anything resembling an activation code or digital key. Among the hundreds of files, one bore the name Astronomer, the same name as the grandfather clock that had contained the Pendulum. The file contained a long alphanumeric string. When entered into the box's interface alongside the physical key, the lock disengaged, with a soft hum of servo motors. Inside lay a single USB drive and a handwritten letter, this one longer and more detailed than Frederick's initial message. "Olivia, if you're reading this, you've demonstrated the intelligence and determination I hoped you possessed. What I've left you is both a blessing and a burden. Information that could transform the global financial system or destroy lives, depending on how it's used. For 30 years, I've created timepieces for the world's elite. My watches have been in presidential offices during peace negotiations, royal chambers during succession planning, and boardrooms during trillion-dollar decisions. They've witnessed history being made, and thanks to technology I developed, they've recorded it. What began as a security measure for my own protection evolved into something more significant. The data I've accumulated reveals systemic corruption within international banking, money laundering for terrorists, tax evasion by political leaders who preach austerity to their citizens, environmental destruction funded through hidden accounts, and wealth stolen from developing nations only to be protected by Swiss privacy laws. Your mother and I separated over fundamental disagreements about responsibility and justice. Eleanor believed in accepting the world as it is. I believed in working toward what it could be. When she chose a conventional life of security over challenging broken systems, our paths diverged permanently. I've watched you from afar, seeing in your choice of profession and your dedication to your students a spark of the same idealism that guided my work. You understand that knowledge not shared is knowledge wasted. The USB drive contains carefully organized evidence of financial crimes committed by 57 individuals who control significant portions of the world's wealth and political power. I've spent years verifying every detail, ensuring the information is accurate and contextualized. What you do with this information is your choice. Release it publicly, and you'll face danger from those implicated. Surrender it to authorities, and it will likely disappear into bureaucratic darkness. Use it selectively as leverage, and you risk becoming what you oppose. There's a fourth option. The drive also contains contact information for journalists, prosecutors, and ethical financial experts in multiple countries who can help distribute this information responsibly. A coordinated release through multiple channels would prevent any single point of suppression. Whatever you choose, know that the shop and its legitimate business provide financial security for your future. The Swiss bank accounts connected to the business contain approximately 23 million francs, my life's earnings from creating objects of beauty and precision for those who appreciate craftsmanship. The secret accounts documented in my files contain nearly 400 million francs in accounts established under various protected identities funds I've recovered from those who acquired their wealth through exploitation and crime. This money was extracted through carefully designed transactions that are virtually untraceable, using the very secrecy laws the corrupt rely upon. This money rightfully belongs to those who were exploited to create it. I've established a foundation structure that can distribute it to environmental restoration, education in developing regions, and support for whistleblowers who expose corruption at great personal risk. You are the sole authorized administrator of this foundation. The necessary legal frameworks are in place, requiring only your signature to activate. Choose wisely, Olivia. Few people ever hold the power to effect meaningful change against systems designed to resist it. Whatever path you select, move with the precision and patience that creates a perfect timepiece, each component in its proper place, each movement carefully calibrated. With respect and hope, Frederick Winters. The gravity of her inheritance left Olivia breathless. This wasn't merely a shop and some savings, it was a moral crossroads with potential global implications. Frederick hadn't just been a master clockmaker. He'd been conducting a decades-long operation to document financial crimes and extract resources from those who had obtained them illegally. The USB drive potentially contained evidence that could topple powerful individuals and shake international banking to its core. The 400 million francs, nearly $430 million, represented a fortune that could fund extraordinary positive change if directed properly. As Olivia carefully replaced the box in its hiding place, securing it until she determined her course of action, she noticed movement among the trees at the cemetery's edge. A figure stood watching, too distant to identify clearly, but positioned with the unmistakable attention of surveillance. The message was clear. Whatever she decided, powerful interests were watching. Frederick's legacy had placed her at the center of a conflict between those who benefited from financial secrecy and those who sought transparency and accountability. Returning to the car, Olivia considered her options. She could walk away from the entire situation, return to teaching in Massachusetts, and pretend she'd never discovered Frederick's secret crusade. She could surrender the information to authorities and hope justice would prevail through official channels. She could attempt to use the information for personal gain, leveraging the secrets for security and comfort. Or she could honor Frederick's vision, using carefully verified information to expose corruption while protecting innocent parties and directing recovered funds toward repairing damages caused by exploitation. As she drove back toward Geneva, Olivia recognized that her life had fundamentally changed. The struggling teacher who had counted pennies to make rent was now the custodian of explosive secrets and substantial resources. The question wasn't whether she had power, but how she would use it. Her phone rang, an unknown number with a Swiss prefix. Connecting it to the car's speaker system, she answered cautiously. "Ms. Bennett." The voice was cultured, calm, and carried the weight of authority. "My name is Director Keller of the Swiss Banking Association. I believe we need to have a conversation about your uncle's activities and the materials currently in your possession." Olivia's grip tightened on the steering wheel as Director Keller's voice filled the car. "I'd prefer to meet in person," she replied, buying time to think. "Perhaps at my uncle's shop tomorrow morning." "This matter requires immediate attention," Keller insisted. "However, I understand your caution. The Bellevue Hotel, 1 hour. The lobby is public enough for your comfort. private enough for our discussion. After disconnecting, Olivia pulled into a roadside cafe to gather her thoughts. The existence of the Swiss Banking Association was legitimate, a powerful organization representing Switzerland's financial institutions. But Keller's call, coming so soon after discovering the cemetery box, suggested either sophisticated surveillance or a leak from someone she'd trusted. The Bellevue Hotel epitomized Swiss elegance: marble floors, discreet security, and impeccable service that acknowledged wealth without drawing attention to it. In the soaring lobby with its panoramic lake views, Olivia spotted a distinguished man in his 60s, silver-haired and radiating authority in a perfectly tailored suit. He sat alone, a briefcase at his feet, watching the entrance with practiced patience. As Olivia approached, he stood with European formality. "Miss Bennett, thank you for agreeing to meet. I'm Director Anton Keller." "Agreeing implies I had a real choice," she replied, taking the seat across from him. "How did you find me at the cemetery?" Keller's smile was practiced. "The financial world runs on information, Miss Bennett. Your uncle understood this better than most." He gestured to a waiter, who immediately brought coffee. "You've discovered Frederick's extracurricular activities. This puts both of us in a delicate position. I'm still learning what my uncle was involved in. Let me illuminate the situation." Keller stirred his coffee with precision. For decades, the Swiss banking system has maintained privacy as its foundation. This privacy serves legitimate purposes, protecting clients from political persecution, unstable regimes, or unjust taxation. Yes, some exploit these protections, but the system itself is not inherently corrupt. My uncle seemed to disagree. Frederick was brilliant but increasingly idealistic in his later years. Keller's tone suggested this was a regrettable condition. The information he gathered presents an incomplete picture, selectively curated to support his particular worldview. You're saying his evidence of financial crimes is false? I'm saying context matters. What appears criminal in isolation may be legitimate when fully understood. More importantly, unilateral release of banking data would cause catastrophic collateral damage to innocent parties. Keller leaned forward. Humanitarian organizations operating in authoritarian states, persecuted religious minorities, journalists working under repressive regimes, all rely on banking privacy for their very survival. The argument was persuasive and troubling. Frederick's letter had framed his crusade as moral clarity, but reality was seldom so clean. What if exposing corruption harmed vulnerable people who depended on the same privacy systems? What exactly are you proposing, Director Keller? A reasonable compromise. Return Frederick's data to the Banking Association. We'll establish an independent ethics committee to review the information and address legitimate concerns through appropriate channels. You'll receive generous compensation for your cooperation, say 20 million francs, and continue operating your uncle's legitimate business without interference. The offer was life-changing. 20 million francs over $21 million would secure her future and her mother's care indefinitely. No more counting pennies, no more impossible choices between medication and rent. And if I decline? Keller's expression hardened slightly. Switzerland takes banking privacy seriously. Possession of confidential banking data is a criminal offense carrying substantial penalties. Even as Frederick's heir, you have no legal right to such information. He paused, allowing the implication to settle. Additionally, Frederick's methods of obtaining this data likely violated numerous laws. Pursuing his path would make you complicit in those violations. The threat was elegant, but unmistakable: cooperate or face prosecution. Yet something in Keller's carefully crafted proposal felt wrong. He had offered 20 million without negotiation, a sum large enough to be tempting, but significantly less than the 400 million Frederick claimed to have recovered. I'll need time to consider your offer, of course. Keller produced A business card with a private number. I can give you 48 hours. After that, other parties within our organization may pursue less diplomatic approaches. He stood, lifting his briefcase. Frederick was respected despite his unorthodox activities. I'd prefer to resolve this situation in a manner honoring that respect. After Keller departed, Olivia remained in the hotel lobby, turning the business card between her fingers. His arguments about collateral damage to innocent parties using banking privacy for protection were compelling. Frederick's perspective suddenly seemed simplistic, failing to acknowledge the complex reality of global finance. Yet something about Keller's smooth assurances felt calculated, designed to neutralize a threat rather than pursue justice. And his dismissal of Frederick as idealistic contradicted everything she was learning about her methodical, precise uncle. Returning to the shop by a circuitous route to detect any surveillance, Olivia found a message from Henry requesting an urgent meeting at a cafe several blocks away. The normally composed assistant was visibly agitated when she arrived, his fingers trembling slightly around his coffee cup. "They questioned me for hours," he confided, voice lowered. "Men claiming to represent the banking association, but their methods were more governmental. They knew details about Mr. Winter's clients that aren't in any official records." "What did you tell them?" "What I knew, which is less than they assumed. Mr. Winters compartmentalized his operations carefully. I handled legitimate watchmaking. His other activities remained separate." Henry glanced nervously around the cafe. "They're particularly interested in something called Protocol 47. They seem to believe you would have access to it through your inheritance." The term was unfamiliar. Did my uncle ever mention this protocol? Never directly. But in his final months, he worked obsessively on a particular project, a specialized chronograph with extraordinary security features. He called it Timekeeper 47. Henry hesitated. "Ms. Bennett, these people are not merely bankers protecting privacy. Their questions, their methods. They operate with governmental authority. You think they're intelligence services?" "I think the line between banking and national security in Switzerland is thinner than most realize." Henry's expression was grim. Whatever Frederick discovered has powerful people terrified. Back at the shop, Olivia examined the micro SD files more systematically, searching for references to Protocol 47 or Timekeeper 47. Among thousands of documents, she found a heavily encrypted file that required multiple authentication factors to access precisely the kind of security Frederick would use for his most sensitive information. Using clues from Henry's description and Frederick's letter, she managed to decrypt the file, revealing a comprehensive dossier unlike the others. While most files documented individual financial crimes, this one detailed a sophisticated system operating at the power intersection of banking, intelligence services, and government. Protocol 47, it appeared, was a classified agreement established in 1947 between Swiss banks and various intelligence agencies, creating mechanisms for governments to monitor supposedly private banking transactions while publicly maintaining the fiction of absolute Swiss banking secrecy. The implications were staggering. For decades, Swiss banks had marketed unbreakable privacy to clients worldwide, while secretly providing access to selected governments. This wasn't merely financial hypocrisy, it was institutionalized betrayal, operating at the highest levels of international finance and governance. Frederick's documentation was meticulous, including recorded conversations, internal memos, account access records, and transaction histories that proved systematic cooperation between banks and intelligence services. If released, this information would destroy Switzerland's reputation for banking secrecy, potentially collapsing a financial system that represented nearly 25% of the country's economy. More disturbing were the specific cases Frederick had documented: political dissidents, whose accounts were monitored and reported to authoritarian regimes, leading to arrests and disappearances. whistleblowers whose legal defense funds were tracked and compromised, journalists whose financial activities were surveilled at the request of governments they investigated. This wasn't just financial misconduct, it was active complicity in human rights violations, all while Swiss banks collected fees for guaranteed privacy from the very people they betrayed. The Timekeeper 47 watch appeared to be Frederick's masterpiece, a device that could detect and record evidence of Protocol 47 operations in real time. According to his technical documentation, the watch contained sophisticated monitoring equipment that could identify and document unauthorized access to banking systems when worn by certain banking officials during critical operations. Frederick had apparently created multiple Timekeeper devices, distributing them as gifts or commissions to unwitting banking executives whose positions gave them proximity to Protocol 47 operations. For years, these watches had been silently gathering evidence while being worn by the very people implementing this secret program. As Olivia processed this information, her phone rang a new unknown number. Ms. Bennett. The voice was female, precise with a slight accent she couldn't place. My name is Claudia Meyer, United Nations Special Rapporteur on Privacy. I understand you're in possession of information regarding Protocol 47. The call confirmed Olivia's growing realization this situation extended far beyond banking irregularities or financial crimes. She was holding evidence of systematic human rights violations facilitated through supposedly secure banking channels. How did you find me? Frederick Winters contacted my office 3 weeks before his death. He indicated that critical information would reach us through his niece. If anything happened to him. Mayer's tone was carefully neutral. I'm currently in Geneva for a privacy conference. We should meet. Unlike Director Keller's smooth persuasion, Mayer offered no incentives or threats, just the simple assertion that this matter belonged in proper channels for addressing human rights concerns. They arranged to meet the following morning at the United Nations office's neutral ground, where Olivia could feel reasonably secure. After ending the call, she returned to examining Frederick's files, focusing now on understanding what had triggered his final actions after decades of methodically gathering evidence. Among his personal journals, she found the answer, a case involving a young environmental activist in Southeast Asia who had been documenting illegal logging operations by companies connected to European banking interests. The activist had established an account at a Swiss bank specifically because of its privacy guarantees. Within months, he disappeared. Frederick's evidence showed his account details had been provided to the very corporate interests he was investigating through Protocol 47 channels. The activist's body was found weeks later. The official ruling was accidental drowning, but Frederick had obtained medical reports suggesting otherwise. This case, one preventable death directly traceable to banking secrecy violations, had apparently transformed Frederick's data collection from documentation into action. His final journal entry read, "Systems survive by convincing individuals they are powerless against institutional forces. This is the fundamental lie of our age. One person with truth can bring down empires built on deception. I've gathered the truth now. I need someone with the courage to wield it properly." Morning brought a message from Henry. He wouldn't be returning to the shop. "Certain parties have made it clear my continued employment would be problematic," he wrote. "Be careful, Ms. Bennett. What Frederick uncovered goes beyond banking. It touches the foundation of how power operates in our world. The United Nations complex in Geneva projected institutional authority, a place where global rules were negotiated and, theoretically, enforced." Claudia Meyer met Olivia in a secure conference room, accompanied by a legal advisor and technical specialist. In her 50s, with steel-gray hair and penetrating intelligence, Meyer embodied professional determination honed through decades of human rights work. Frederick Winters provided preliminary evidence of systematic privacy violations, Meyer explained after introductions. But he indicated the complete documentation would come through you if his concerns about his safety proved warranted. You believed him? About Protocol 47. We've received fragmented reports for years suggesting some arrangement between Swiss banking and intelligence services. Frederick's preliminary evidence provided the first comprehensive documentation. Meyer's expression was solemn. If verified, this represents one of the most significant privacy breaches in modern history, not just financial privacy, but human rights violations facilitated through that breach. The technical specialist, Dr. Kaufman, explained the verification processes they would use to authenticate Frederick's evidence while protecting both the information and Olivia herself. The legal advisor outlined potential approaches from confidential proceedings through UN human rights mechanisms to more public accountability through international courts. Unlike Keller's smooth assurances or implied threats, Meyer offered transparent analysis of difficult options. There are no simple solutions here. Release of this information would have significant consequence, economic impact on Switzerland. Diplomatic tensions between nations implicated in Protocol 47, and potential retaliation against whistleblowers. So you're suggesting I shouldn't release it? Olivia asked. I'm suggesting you understand that justice rarely follows a clean path. Meyer's gaze was direct. Frederick spent decades gathering this evidence precisely because these violations are protected by powerful interests. Any path forward will involve risk and compromise. The contrast with Keller's approach was striking. Where the banking director had offered simplistic solutions and personal enrichment, Meyer acknowledged complexity while focusing on accountability and human rights principles. What would you do with the information? Olivia asked. Establish its authenticity, document the specific human rights violations, then pursue accountability through appropriate international mechanisms. Meyer leaned forward. Not for publicity or financial impact, but to end systematic violations and provide remedies for victims. The approach aligned with Frederick's vision, using carefully verified information to expose corruption while protecting innocent parties. But Meyer's next statement revealed the true stakes. You should understand, the people behind Protocol 47 will go to extraordinary lengths to prevent exposure. Frederick knew this. It's why he created redundancies and contingencies. She paused. We believe his death wasn't entirely natural. The implication landed like a physical blow. You think he was murdered? The official cause was heart failure, plausible for a man his age. But the timing, immediately after he contacted our office, Meyer let the sentence hang unfinished. We can offer protection through UN mechanisms, but I won't pretend. The risk isn't significant. Returning to the shop that afternoon, Olivia found herself at the intersection of powerful forces: banking interests, government agencies, and international organizations, all focused on information now in her possession. The modest teaching career that had once defined her seemed increasingly distant, like a life lived by someone else. As evening approached, she received another call, this time from Director Keller. I understand you met with Claudia Meyer today. He began without preamble, confirming Olivia's suspicion that she was under surveillance. The UN's human rights mechanisms are admirable in principle, but hopelessly bureaucratic in practice. They'll spend years processing Frederick's information, while lives and economies hang in the balance. As opposed to your ethics committee, Olivia countered, which would bury the information completely. Keller sighed audibly. I hoped you would be reasonable. Let me be more direct. Protocol 47 involves national security arrangements between sovereign nations. Exposing it would be considered an act of espionage by multiple governments, including Switzerland, including countries with fewer legal protections than Switzerland. The threat was explicit now. You have 24 hours to accept our offer before alternate measures are implemented. After disconnecting, Olivia paced Frederick's workshop, weighing impossible options. Return the information to the banking establishment, that had misused it for decades? Surrender it to UN mechanisms that might take years to achieve accountability? Release it publicly and face both legal consequences and potential danger? Or perhaps there was another way, one that honored Frederick's methodical approach while achieving more immediate impact. Among Frederick's contacts was a network of trusted journalists, legal experts, and ethical technologists he had cultivated over decades. People positioned to verify, contextualize, and disseminate information responsibly through multiple channels. Not a single point of release that could be suppressed, but a coordinated disclosure through dozens of verified pathways. Working through the night, Olivia prepared secure packages of information, each containing different components of Frederick's evidence, with cross-references allowing recipients to verify authenticity by connecting with others in the network. The distribution system Frederick had designed was brilliant in its simplicity. No single person would have the complete picture, but collectively, the network could assemble and verify the full scope of Protocol 47. By dawn, she had activated Frederick's contingency plan, using the secure communication protocols he had established. Digital packages were encrypted and scheduled for delivery to journalists at major publications, human rights attorneys, digital rights organizations, and selected government accountability offices across 27 countries. The evidence was now beyond her control or anyone else's to completely suppress. Whatever happened next, Protocol 47 would be exposed, its violations documented, and its victims potentially vindicated. As morning light filtered through the shop windows, Olivia placed a call to Director Keller. "I've considered your offer," she began when he answered, "and I have a counter-proposal." 6 months after her fateful inheritance, Olivia Bennett stood in Tempest Precision's transformed main showroom, watching as distinguished guests circulated through the reimagined space. The traditional watchmaking displays remained, featuring exquisite timepieces that maintained Frederick's legacy of precision craftsmanship. But the shop had evolved into something more, an elegant gallery space where historical clocks and watches told stories of time's relationship to power, secrecy, and transformation. The Witnesses Exhibition, read the discreet signage, the first public acknowledgement of Frederick Winter's secondary mission. Under glass cases with museum-quality lighting, selected timepieces from Frederick's collection revealed their dual nature. Masterworks of horological art that had secretly documented some of the most significant financial decisions of the past 3 decades. "Remarkable transformation," murmured Claudia Meyer, sipping champagne as she surveyed the exhibition. "You've turned a covert operation into a public statement without compromising its effectiveness." Indeed, the exhibition walked a delicate line, revealing enough about Frederick's methods to establish historical significance while protecting operational details, still used by the network of collaborators who continued his work. Each displayed timepiece had been retired from active service, its monitoring capabilities neutralized while its story was preserved. Frederick understood that secrecy and transparency served different purposes at different moments. Olivia replied, watching as banking executives, journalists, and diplomats examined the exhibits with varying degrees of appreciation and discomfort. This exhibition honors the past while protecting the present. The past 6 months had transformed both the shop and Olivia herself. Where once Tempest Precision had operated as a covert documentation center disguised as a luxury watch shop, it now functioned openly as both, maintaining its reputation for exceptional timepieces while establishing the Winters Foundation as a significant force for financial accountability and transparency. Director Keller arrived fashionably late, his presence representing tacit acknowledgement from the banking establishment that had once considered Frederick an existential threat. The Protocol 47 negotiations had evolved into substantive reforms, not perfect, but meaningful progress toward financial systems that preserve legitimate privacy, while preventing exploitation of vulnerable populations. "Ms. Bennett," Keller greeted her with European formality. A provocative presentation. You've managed to make watchmaking political without sacrificing its artistry. Time has always been political, Director, Olivia countered with a smile. Who measures it? Who controls it? Who values it? These questions have shaped civilizations. Frederick simply made the connections more explicit. The exhibition had required careful calibration, public enough to establish historical record, but controlled enough to protect ongoing operations. Each displayed timepiece included documentation of its role in exposing financial misconduct, with names and specific details anonymized to protect both victims and whistleblowers. The centerpiece, Frederick's own watch, which he had worn throughout his career, occupied a special case in the center of the room. Unlike the others, this timepiece contained no secret recording devices. Instead, it represented Frederick's personal philosophy, a perfectly crafted mechanical watch that required no batteries, no electronics, just precisely crafted components, working in perfect harmony, much like the accountability networks he had built. Henry approached with a distinguished gentleman who moved with military precision despite his advanced age. Miss Bennett, may I present General Rousseau, retired from Swiss intelligence. He specifically requested to meet you. The introduction confirmed what Olivia had begun to suspect: Frederick's network extended into government agencies themselves, including individuals uncomfortable with Protocol 47's excesses and willing to provide inside information to prevent abuses. Your uncle was a remarkable adversary, Rousseau said without preamble. For 15 years, my department attempted to identify his information sources. We never succeeded. Frederick understood that the best place to hide is often in plain sight, Olivia replied. A luxury watchmaker creating timepieces for banking executives raised no security concerns. Until it was too late, Rousseau acknowledged with a slight smile. By the time we realized what he had built, the documentation was too comprehensive to suppress. He gestured toward the exhibition cases. This public acknowledgement is bold. Some of my former colleagues consider it provocative. Transparency often provokes those who benefit from secrecy, Olivia noted. But Frederick believed accountability serves everyone's interests in the long term, even those who initially resist it. Across the room, Elise Dubois was deep in conversation with a financial journalist whose recent series on banking reform had significantly shaped public discourse. The journalist wore one of Frederick's creations, an elegant watch with traditional styling that concealed cutting-edge documentation capabilities. Frederick's network continued its work, evolving rather than ending with his passing. The exhibition represented just one facet of Olivia's transformation of her uncle's legacy. The Winters Foundation had established offices in Geneva, London, and Singapore, with programs focusing on financial transparency, victim restitution, and education initiatives teaching vulnerable communities how to protect themselves from exploitative financial practices. The foundation's structure embodied Frederick's philosophy: operating transparently, where possible, while maintaining precision intervention capabilities where necessary. Public advocacy programs operated alongside confidential documentation projects, each approach serving different aspects of the same mission. What had begun as an unexpected inheritance had evolved into purposeful continuation. Olivia divided her time between foundation leadership, managing Tempus Precision's legitimate watchmaking business, and coordinating the network of witnesses Frederick had established. Her teaching background proved unexpectedly valuable, translating complex financial concepts into accessible educational materials, explaining accountability mechanisms to affected communities, and training new collaborators in Frederick's methodologies. As the evening progressed, Olivia circulated among guests with the confidence of someone who had found unexpected purpose. 6 months earlier, she had been a struggling teacher counting pennies. Now she directed resources that were transforming financial accountability worldwide. Yet the most significant transformation wasn't financial but philosophical. Frederick's approach to systemic change precision intervention, based on meticulously documented evidence, had revealed possibilities beyond the false choice between accepting broken systems or destroying them entirely. Later that evening, after the exhibition opening concluded, Olivia met with Frederick's core network in the secure conference room above the shop. 12 individuals from banking, government, technology, and media, each wearing one of Frederick's specialized timepieces, each positioned at critical intersections of power and information. The Protocol 47 reforms are progressing, reported a distinguished banker whose position on the regulatory committee provided crucial oversight. Implementation has reached Phase 3, with victim identification nearly complete and compensation structures established. Resistance continues from intelligence agencies. Added a technology specialist whose access to communication systems provided early warning of counterations. 3 documented attempts to compromise the Oversight Committee in the past month alone. Olivia absorbed these updates while reviewing security protocols for the network's next priority, documenting how certain financial institutions facilitated environmental exploitation in developing regions while presenting public sustainability commitments that contradicted their actual practices. Frederick believed that lasting change requires both pressure and pathways. Olivia reminded the group, channeling principles gleaned from months studying her uncle's methods. We apply pressure through precise documentation of misconduct, but always provide pathways toward reformed practices. The approach had proven remarkably effective, creating accountability through irrefutable evidence while offering constructive alternatives to destructive practices. Unlike traditional activism that often polarized situations into moral absolutes, Frederick's methodology focused on specific mechanisms that enabled exploitation, documenting them with watchmaker's precision and offering concrete reforms. After the meeting concluded, Olivia returned to her apartment above the shop, the space she had gradually transformed from Frederick's austere efficiency into something that reflected her own evolving identity. Personal touches had softened the precision without diminishing it. Botanical illustrations alongside technical drawings, comfortable furniture coexisting with cutting-edge security systems. A notification on her secure tablet indicated an encrypted message from the medical center in Massachusetts, where her mother resided. Monthly updates on Eleanor's condition had continued despite the geographical distance, though Olivia had visited twice since inheriting Frederick's legacy. The report indicated small but significant improvements in her mother's cognitive function. Experimental treatments, funded by the Winters Foundation, were showing promise in slowing Parkinson's progression. The cruel irony that Eleanor's condition might improve through resources made possible by the brother she had rejected wasn't lost on Olivia. Life's complexities rarely resolved into neat moral lessons. Morning brought another significant visitor. To Tempest Precision, Marcus Chun, whose technology company specialized in secure communication systems. His arrival represented the evolution of Frederick's methods, from purely mechanical timepieces with concealed recording devices to next-generation systems incorporating quantum encryption and artificial intelligence. The prototype exceeds specifications, Chun reported, demonstrating a watch indistinguishable from luxury timepieces but containing communication capabilities beyond military-grade systems. Completely undetectable by current scanning technologies, capable of documenting conversations while independently analyzing patterns across multiple data sources. The technological advancement reflected Frederick's understanding that methods must evolve as surveillance systems become more sophisticated. Where his original witnesses had simply recorded conversations in secure environments, these next-generation devices could identify patterns across multiple sources that human analysts might miss. Frederick would have appreciated the elegance of the solution, Olivia observed, examining the prototype's seamless integration of traditional craftsmanship and cutting-edge technology. Beautiful objects serving profound purposes. Chung nodded. appreciatively. Most security specialists focus solely on function. Frederick understood that true invisibility comes from creating objects people admire rather than suspect. The approach characterized everything Frederick had built and everything Olivia was now extending. The shop's reputation for exceptional craftsmanship provided perfect cover for its secondary purpose. The Foundation's transparent programs created legitimate access to information channels, while its confidential operations documented abuses those channels enabled. Later that afternoon, Olivia visited the Geneva offices of the Winters Foundation, where program directors presented updates on initiatives spanning 5 continents. Education programs teaching financial literacy in developing regions. Accountability. Mechanisms documenting exploitation of indigenous resources. Technology projects creating secure communication channels for vulnerable populations. The Microfinance Initiative in Southeast Asia has reached 15,000 participants, reported the program director, displaying metrics that showed tangible improvements in community resilience against exploitative lending practices. With 94% repayment rates and documented income increases averaging 27% among participating households. What had begun as Frederick's personal mission had expanded into a comprehensive approach to financial accountability, not merely documenting abuses but creating alternatives that demonstrated how systems could function ethically without sacrificing effectiveness. As Olivia reviewed these programs, she recognized how her teaching background had influenced the Foundation's evolution. Where Frederick had focused primarily on documentation and exposure, Olivia had added educational components that empowered, affected communities to protect themselves and advocate for systemic reforms. Evening found her back at the shop, working alongside Henry to restore a particularly challenging antique pocket watch. The timepiece, created in 1832 for a British naval officer, had survived nearly 2 centuries before its delicate mechanism finally surrendered to time's inevitable entropy. "The balance staff is compromised beyond repair," Henry observed, examining the critical component under magnification. "We'll need to fabricate a replacement precise to within 5 microns of the original specifications." The restoration process provided meditative counterpoint to Olivia's broader responsibilities, focusing entirely on a single mechanism, understanding how its components interacted, and restoring proper function through meticulously calibrated interventions. The parallels to Frederick's approach to institutional reform were striking. Mr. Winters believed watchmaking provided the perfect metaphor for effective change, Henry noted, as though reading her thoughts. Understanding that complex systems require precision adjustments at critical points rather than indiscriminate force. As they worked, Olivia reflected on how dramatically her life had transformed since inheriting Frederick's legacy. The financial security alone would have been life-changing, eliminating the constant stress of inadequate resources that had defined her teaching career. But the purpose behind that security had proven even more transformative. Where once she had measured success by helping individual students understand historical patterns, she now helped shape those patterns directly, creating accountability in systems designed to evade it, establishing transparency where secrecy enabled exploitation, and building educational pathways that empowered vulnerable populations. Her phone chimed with an encrypted message from Claudia Meyer. "Committee has approved full implementation of victim compensation protocols. First disbursement scheduled for next month. Your uncle's work is bearing fruit." The notification represented tangible progress. People harmed through Protocol 47 violations would receive not just acknowledgement but material compensation for damages suffered. Lives destroyed through institutional betrayal would receive some measure of justice and restoration. This was Frederick's ultimate legacy, not merely documenting injustice but creating mechanisms that transformed that documentation into meaningful change. The meticulously gathered evidence, strategic pressure at critical points, and carefully designed alternative pathways had created accountability where none had existed before. The next morning brought a different kind of success. Olivia's first completed restoration of a complex timepiece without Henry's direct assistance. The pocket watch, its mechanism now functioning with precision that honored its original creator's intentions, represented another facet of continuing Frederick's legacy, mastering the craftsmanship that had defined his public identity while serving his deeper purpose. "Excellent work," Henry acknowledged, testing the watch's functionality with professional scrutiny. "You have your uncle's patience and attention to detail." The comparison brought unexpected emotion. 6 months earlier, Olivia had known Frederick only as a name on inheritance documents, a mysterious relative who had left her valuable property for reasons she couldn't fathom. Now she was continuing his life's work, guided by values they shared despite never having met. That afternoon, Olivia received another visitor journalist, Thomas Ward, whose investigative reporting had exposed multiple financial scandals over the past decade. His arrival represented the third aspect of Frederick's methodology: strategic disclosure of documented abuses through trusted media channels. "The evidence package on environmental exploitation is comprehensive," Ward confirmed, reviewing materials the Foundation had compiled documenting how certain banks financed rainforest destruction while publicly claiming sustainability commitments. Publication begins next week through coordinated outlets in 17 countries. Frederick's approach to disclosure had been as precise as his watchmaking, releasing evidence through multiple channels simultaneously, preventing suppression through injunctions or pressure on individual outlets. The methodology ensured that documented abuses reached public awareness regardless of efforts to maintain secrecy. "The banking partners have been notified of impending disclosure," Olivia confirmed, following Frederick's protocol of providing institutions opportunity to implement reforms before public exposure. 3 have already committed to specific policy changes and compensation for affected communities. This too reflected Frederick's philosophy. The goal was never punishment or destruction, but reformed practices and accountability. Institutions that responded constructively received acknowledgement of their corrections. Those that resisted faced more comprehensive exposure of their misconduct. As evening approached, Olivia prepared for a video conference with Foundation partners in Southeast Asia, where community-based monitoring programs were documenting how international development loans often created debt traps rather than sustainable progress. The initiative combined Frederick's documentation methodology with Olivia's educational approach, teaching communities to gather evidence of exploitative practices while developing alternative development models. Before the call began, she took a moment to visit the shop's main showroom, now close to customers after the exhibition opening. The displays of Frederick's witness timepieces represented the bridge between his legacy and her continuation, honoring what he had built while evolving it toward new applications. 1 year earlier, Olivia Bennett had been calculating whether she could afford both electricity and her mother's medication. Now she directed resources affecting financial accountability worldwide while continuing a craft tradition representing the pinnacle of human precision and patience. The transformation wasn't merely personal but philosophical, revealing possibilities beyond the apparent dichotomy between accepting broken systems or destroying them. Frederick had demonstrated how precision intervention at critical points could create accountability in systems designed to evade it, much as a master watchmaker could restore proper function to a complex mechanism through carefully calibrated adjustments. As Olivia prepared for the video conference, she noticed movement at the shop's entrance, young woman peering through the window with evident curiosity about the exhibition. Something in her expression, a combination of intensity and idealism, reminded Olivia of herself before inheritance had transformed her circumstances. On impulse, Olivia unlocked the door, inviting the surprised visitor to view the exhibition despite the closed sign. The witnesses' exhibition documents how specialized timepieces created accountability in financial systems designed to evade oversight, she explained, guiding the young woman through displays that told Frederick's story without revealing operational details still in use. "I've been following the Protocol 47 revelations," the visitor replied, studying a timepiece that had documented critical banking discussions. "The systematic betrayal of privacy protections affected several human rights cases I've been researching." The comment revealed expertise beyond casual interest. "You work in human rights documentation?" Olivia asked. "I'm completing a dissertation on financial mechanisms that enable human rights violations," the young woman confirmed. "Specifically how banking secrecy has been weaponized against vulnerable populations." The parallels to Frederick's work were striking. As they discussed financial accountability systems, Olivia recognized in this visitor the same combination of precise, analytical thinking and principled commitment that had characterized her uncle's approach. "I'm hosting a foundation seminar next week on documentation methodologies for financial accountability," Olivia said, offering a business card embossed with the Winters Foundation logo. "Your perspective would be valuable if you're interested in attending." The invitation represented another aspect of Frederick's legacy, identifying individuals with compatible skills and values, gradually expanding the network of witnesses positioned at critical intersections of power and information. Not recruitment in the traditional sense, but recognition of shared purpose across different domains. After the visitor departed, Olivia returned to her office above the shop, where the video conference with Southeast Asian partners awaited. The meeting would focus on documenting how international loans, allegedly supporting sustainable development, actually facilitated environmental exploitation while creating debt dependencies. The work continued precision intervention in systems designed to evade accountability, meticulously documented evidence applied strategically to create reform rather than destruction. Frederick's approach evolved through Olivia's stewardship, expanding beyond documentation to include education, empowerment, and alternative models. 1 year after inheriting a broken clock shop with hidden vault codes worth hundreds of millions, Olivia Bennett had transformed not just her circumstances, but her understanding of how meaningful change occurs, not through grand gestures or destructive force, but through precision adjustments at critical points in complex systems. Like a master horologist restoring function to a priceless timepiece, she had learned to identify which components required intervention, which connections needed strengthening, and which mechanisms could transform entire systems when properly calibrated. The Swiss bank codes hidden in a grandfather clock's pendulum had proved valuable. Beyond their monetary worth, they had revealed Frederick Winters' remarkable methodology for creating accountability where none existed before. That methodology, now continued and expanded through Olivia's stewardship, represented his true legacy, a precision approach to institutional reform as elegant as the timepieces that had concealed it for decades. As night fell over Geneva's ancient streets, lights gleamed from the workshop where Henry was teaching 3 apprentices the fundamentals of traditional watchmaking skills that would preserve Frederick's craft legacy while supporting its deeper purpose. In the secure conference room above, Foundation staff analyzed documentation from witnesses positioned in financial institutions worldwide, identifying patterns of exploitation that would guide the next precision interventions. Time, the ultimate currency, continued its inexorable measurement, but now with accountability systems Frederick had established, and Olivia continued, ensuring that those who controlled financial resources could no longer exploit time's passage without consequence. The broken clock shop had revealed not just hidden wealth, but a methodology for transforming how power operates in systems designed to evade oversight. Tick by tick, with watchmaker's precision, the work continued. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.